Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is the night of the solstice, okay, the longest night in the year. I have been blessed with, somebody was blessing my womb. So it was a very beautiful experience. And you know that I'm dealing with a lot and tending to a lot. So I'm very, very grateful. And then I woke up in that way, and I began listening to basically a lecture by Lada Duncheva. It's completely free. You can watch her on her channel for 2025. And mid through to the lecture, I'm getting Second Coming of Christ. It was around this just Saturn, Neptune, ingress to Aries, which is going to go the back and forth. And kind of like around the second time, it's like the second coming of Christ. And I'm a secular as fuck person, okay? So I didn't quite get it. And I tried to have a little bit more of what people call downloads or eurekas or understanding of why. And then it is a Venus hour now. The moon is slowly applying to trine Uranus and on Beta Persei. And before that, I had like all the ritual sacrifice, the snakes, the therapists saw around patients' heads. In my country around 7th October. And we don't have the testimonials from like the other side. And all these things that got released, and then it suddenly kind of dawned on me that Jesus Christ, okay, he was considered a traitor. And I'm not saying this from a religious perspective. I'm saying this from not even theosophical perspective. I'm saying it from a history perspective, okay? Historically, who we know as Christ was considered a traitor. And I'm thinking about how the god of the sky, Uranus, or Enki, conjoined in a Beta Persei, the triple goddess. Okay, when we call to Venus, we say that the triple face is ruled by thy decree. And that is Beta Persei, and that liberation of Uranus is kind of like, and liberation is basically, so if you think about the bottle that you pop, okay, if you just pop that bottle, everything comes out. So everything that our collective consciousness, but also the soil, the earth, the rituals that were done for the snake goddess, the good ones, the bad ones, the evil ones, all comes out. It's the face of Taurus where we balance the spirit and matter. So I could not help but thinking that historically Jesus went on the land, and I'm not going to talk about like the miracles and all of these things, but it's just like Jesus walked on the land and he was considered a traitor. And another thing that I was looking to the apostles a couple of weeks ago, and I have been receiving a lot about the fact that, let's say the simple, there is a saying in Hebrew that says that the prophecy was given to the fools, okay? So, and genuinely, if I look at it from like medical perspective, the people you call psychotic and schizophrenic, they just know things that you don't. They're sensitive to things that you don't. Unfortunately, a lot of it comes through torture, and that's why you don't know that. And there's a bridging of the worlds that's coming, and it pertains to the apostles. And I was looking at the story for Saint Peter. Now, of course, Christianity spread around the world through Inquisition. Okay, the most ritual abuse that we see around the Christian society is underneath the Vatican. So we're gonna have to rejuvenate for the Vatican. As I sang, okay, to smash the Inquisition, you start with Vatican, okay? The Memento Mori cult, the Op Dei cult. So this is not coming, from, but this is so meta because I was looking at the apostles, and one of the stories was of Saint Peter, and that is a story of a person who basically a sinner. He was, and when Christ told him, I need your help, I need you to spread Christianity to people, he said, kind of like, the fuck you want me to do that? I'm the biggest sinner. and then he will have his twists and turns around faith. Okay. I was also thinking of people who come from more like Judaistic tradition, how the meeting between Maimonides and Sufi Islamic thought birthed something that had a lot to do with, at least for Maimonides, the doubt as strengthens the belief. Okay, and you want to think about Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the sign of the mind, of intelligence. Think about Kant as a very Aryan, not racially, but astrologically, person, the cognition, that through the logos you can, if you sit with yourself, you meditate through the logos, you can connect with the divine. That is the establishment of sovereignty, the establishment of both the, when I say capitalism, I don't mean corporatism, I mean the fact that the sovereignty of the individual that divinely allows them, to connect with not only natural law, but with God. It allows them to own property. Okay, that's the basis of the foundation of the Declaration of Independence of the United States. Okay, we do not have personal property without a presupposition that you can, with your logos as an individual, connect with the divine and have a sovereignty, and you're sovereign enough. You don't need a guru, a rabbi, an imam to bridge in the things in as much, or even a chief that was a chief or shaman, okay, that was the modern or monotheistic religion, and you can do it by yourself, okay? So less tribal, more individualistic society. So going back to the story of St. Peter, there was this fear that kept him going back and forth, and kept him continuing to do the crime, basically. And eventually, when he was hanged, he died quite a horrible death, but he wanted to be hanged upside down, and that was his humility. So there is kind of the Piscean duality notion between the fear that we have on the coming of what people call Christ, or the coming of Christ, the fear that we have from divinity that can make us both hurt and be hurt. Of course, this people being hurt is not necessarily because you fear, okay, but just saying that. And then we have the upright, okay? And so St. Peter did not see himself as the upright even upon his death. And the humility around the common person, and he was sent by Christ because Christ told him, you're the common person. You're the person to show people that this is a religion for the common people. And the bridge between that which is Christ-like, okay, inhumane, in its divinity, okay, both in the sacrificial levels, but also the war levels, okay, and it's not for nothing we talk about the breaking of the primordial water, Genesis, and 0 degree Aries, which is incarnation of something. It can be second coming of Christ in that sense. And you talk about the light that is. Aries is a very impulsive sign. It's a sign of the toddler, okay? So We talk about even a birthing of, I'm not saying birthing of a new religion or even birthing of a new Messiah. It's just that was a notion that came in, and you can see it as a rare conjunction. And you can see it as a new form of consciousness thinking and so on. But you can also understand how the doubt, Saturn that represents orthodoxy religion, also represents the principle of the doubt and atheism. So I'm thinking about all these people that practice the inversion of, including the Vatican, by the way. And those are horrors. Those are ritual sacrifices of children. But those horrors were not invented in any way by Christianity. And we think about the upright version, and you think about the fears to turn downside up, the fears to stop sacrificing children and grow some hibiscus. Okay? I've been talking about growing hibiscus a lot when it came to Beta Per Se, and actually with the place where I stay after I pretty much escaped my previous housing situation, has hibiscus growing, in the yard, and that was one of the things that people are afraid to let go of the old. They are afraid that if they wouldn't self-mutilate or feel shame, existential shame, or just something is going to pop and they're not going to be able to recover. And it is actually in the simplicity of what we call ritual that we hold the space for the divine, or for the all that is, or for the magic of life. Okay. So another thing, going back to the Beta Per Se Uranus, is that Jesus was historically considered not a rebel so much as a traitor. And Uranus Beta Per Se is the time where, if I think about with the common people, I think about the moon, and in Netherlands we have houses exploding, and it's obvious that there was rape in these houses, and it's also obvious that when we talk about the common people and the common person being seen as a traitor, there can be an astrological location to that. And this is the land of the flood. And so, when we're talking about a common person being seen as a traitor, because we're not talking about the leader. Okay, Israel, for example, has sun in the exact location, and there's a lot of traitor talks, let's just say. But Beta Per Se is the triple face is a lot of holding timestamps of people we consider traitors. When we talk about the common person, we talk about moon Beta Per Se. So one country that I know has moon Beta Per Se is Netherlands. If you take the 1800 chart. I'm not saying this person is going to be birthed. It's just like there's some sort of a commoner that's associated with that land. And it's funny that it came around Venus. And when I talk about 2025, I said, I noticed that the sun, every time something happens in Leo, we have a feminist boom. Okay? And I'm like, I don't understand why. And when we talk about Beta Per Se, it's a Venus rule sign. So we can think about the commoner that has this holding of kind of like a second coming of Christ, but I wouldn't necessarily assume their gender. Either way. So that's just something that is kind of, I'm also talking about this in a Venus hour, on a Mercury night. So this is a place where a lot of the inversion cults are practiced, okay, ritual abuse and so on. But when we're talking about the upright, that person can be seen as a traitor, okay? And I'm not saying it's going to be a person. It's just like, when you get something like it, you don't know what it will be. It could be a sort of belief. It could be, but that person can be seen as a traitor, because the notions, the old notions, the preconceived notions that we have on Beta per se, people didn't see Medusa Gorgon as, they either saw her as the seductress, but they didn't see her as someone who was raped, not believed for her testimony, and then murdered. They saw her as a traitor. And up until today, one of the things that happen every time something touches on that Beta per se, I'm not talking about COVID with Sedna, because Sedna has another thing to do with betrayal, but we have this traitor discourse. You want to think about the times even of the Second World War, and Marlene Dietrich, okay, that was considered a traitor, but then also later regretted and refound the motherland in Germany, perhaps because she learned some things about the global situation regarding the motherland. I even had a conversation with a Dutch mother that works for kidnapped children and against what the hermaphrodite cults or the inversion cults or satanic ritual abuse cults. She said, I'm Dutch, I hate everything orange. And orange is associated with the kingdom of Orange, with the Netherlands. And I'm like, well, the problem is global. Everything that you are concerned about in your country, it's a global issue. And so this Beta per se discourse is still being seen as a traitor, as somebody that went through atrocities. If you think about Christ, he was crucified, but we also think about Medusa Gorgon and the sky god, okay, meeting on the land, on the triple face, has a little bit of a eureka notion to that, and sextiling the Neptune-Saturn, kind of like the second coming of Neptune, with the ingress of Saturn, is given the second coming of Christ. And so I talked about 2025 and about not having rose-colored glasses when it comes to the healing. I'd even so much to say that, there's a crisis of healing, as Lada presented it. This is not just a crisis of healing, okay? That's what they're planning for the world is hell unleashed. I'm not going to be fooling anybody, and even the people that he's been most associated with the pits of hell from upbringing to leadership tell us we can't fiscally afford it, okay? Which is the most pragmatic way. You can't do a JFK, okay? The JFKs were assassinated from Japan to Netherlands, okay? So you can't do a JFK in this atmosphere. And the people have been most pragmatically telling us, okay, from the pits of hell, we can't afford your hell. We can't afford your world war. So going back to the story of the apostles, you think about how those prophecies paint the people as the common person as a traitor. What do you mean we can't go to war? What do you mean we cannot unleash hell on earth? What do you mean we won't withstand perpetual, endless war? Okay? So it's either it's coming from, what do you mean you're going to send us all to war that is needless, to what do you mean you can't afford war? And it's that duality that is almost Neptunian that reaches Aries with Saturn that has a second coming of Christ story. And when we're talking about people that are of the common people, but it's also the people that have been through the primordial waters. And the primordial waters with Saturn have not been so clear. And I was thinking a lot today about how a drop of fresh water can disturb an entire polluted ocean and stir up the demons. What do you mean a fresh drop of water? We never seen a fresh drop. There's no such thing as a fresh drop. What's about this person? What's about this drop of water? Okay, let's find the dirt in the water, in this droplet of water. And then for the other situations, like, what do you mean that what is that reflecting to us something about us, about this? No, we're the common people. We've been through a lot of shit. And there is this transition of the fresh water coming to the well, coming to the oceans. It's like, where is this water coming from? What is this water? What's all the dumb fuckery shit? What's the, Christ consciousness? What's the dumb fuckery shit? Have you seen what's happening? Have you seen children being mutilated, ritually raped, and men thinking that he raped a dead corpse? And it's like, was she alive? I didn't know that. I thought I was sleeping with the corpse. Okay. How can you bring a droplet of fresh water? And this is exactly for what I say the second coming of Christ. Christ walked on the land as a human. And when we talk about washing away of the sin, okay, we are talking about deep shit, okay? We are talking about those sins. We're very pragmatically, the threshold, and Pluto in Aquarius is a lot about the threshold. Aquarius is a non-linear dynamic system, a chaotic system where you have attractors, strange attractors, and then there's a threshold. You cross the threshold and then there's inversion of the system. Pluto is a lot about that. So we reach an equilibrium where the pivots, and it's the night of solstice. Okay, it's actually the night of that. It's where something very, very dark, poof, becomes into the light. Although we are turning to winter, but it's the longest night. And you think about the longest night, it's like the longest night of the soul. What will happen after the longest night of the soul? Something comes upright. So, and tonight, for the first time in a very long time, I woke up not to courses that I have to tend to, and I'm like, I'll tend to that in the morning. And we have fertility courses, housing courses, things that I'm like, I didn't know there are bunches of people that do that. Now, usually they think that you do that, which is like, that is such a waste of time. Okay? And I woke up to having my womb being blessed. And that's new. It was so new that I had to get used to it. And still, it kind of like do all this, it's kind of like a fresh water, where all around it was like, what is this droplet of water? Okay? And it was all the waters looking at that fresh water. So I'm like, how are we supposed to assimilate that? So, and then I hear, Lada, and immediately I'm like, the second coming of Christ. And it is a person that walked on the land. It's not a god. Okay, not more or less than any other god. Mind you, we are in Aries. We're not in that holy. Go back to the apostles and the story of Saint Peter. That was a person. That was a person that sinned. That was a person that raped. That was a person that was raped. That was a person that was a thief. That was a person that was a crook. That was a person that lied, that cheated, that was unreliable, that feared, that didn't believe. Okay, that was, Saint Peter. And and then this person, again, it has to spread something that is fresh water to the people, to turn what's upside down, downside up. And then even that person, not only was he crucified, but he was crucified upside down. So it's both great humility, but it's also understandable where does this humility come from, because it's genuinely people. Pluto, we're talking about the people, and with Pluto, we're talking about the people of the lodges. We talk about the people that would sit in ceremonies, rape babies. I'm not joking. I'm not being not anti-Semitic, not antichrist, not prejudiced, not nothing. Everything I got was from enlightenment, was from the lodges. Everything I got. I was not born into a lodge. Everything we got, all the faculties of thought from, all around the world, regardless of origin, regardless of tribal society, right now in modern times is from the lodges. And these are the people that were sitting doing these ceremonies, torturing fetus in the womb. So Pluto is talking about those people. We talk about power to the people. It's the people of the lodges. And then there's the common people, and we're talking about the traitor archetype. Okay, they're a traitor, they're a this, they're a that, and the notion that the prophecy was given for fools. The prophecy was given for those people that are the common people. Because the role of that divinity, or the reason for the coming of Christ, is like, hey, there is divinity here on earth, and we are embracing that. Not just to sacrifice or to wash away the sin, but also, hey, that there is divinity here. There is divinity in you. There's divinity. There's redemption. There's divinity in what you've done. Okay, if we want to transform something that from the conception was tortured, repent is something that comes with a lot of forgiveness, but it's also repent when in the sense of unconditional love. Because basically when you talk about the root, that evil is basically torture and the perpetuation of torture. So second coming of Christ is going to further emphasize that in a time when we need it the most. We will not have denuclearification without abolishing ritual abuse. Truly abolishing. From underneath the Vatican, from underneath the churches, from underneath the mosques, from underneath the synagogues, from underneath the places of rituals for indigenous societies as well. And in modern societies. We will not have that, okay? And in those situations, we talk about Saturn Pisces, that will ingress into Aries. It's a crisis of healing, because in those situations, people do evil stuff. They perpetuate horror, evil. You think about I just think about the fact that for at least a year that I know of, there have been a pack of people that I don't know who they are, but I've been awaking every night, couple of nights, with dryness in my eyes from curses and ritual, and I don't even know who are these people? Why? It is those people that might turn downside up. It's not for nothing that we talk about the first coming of Christ, we talk about, or the recent coming of Christ, okay, we talk about revelations. What is revelation? Something is revealed. When we talk about water, when we come into contact with actually pure water, supportive water, if we've been in a place that's very polluted, we don't even know where this is coming from. What is it? It seems like the false light. We don't know how to assimilate that, and it's very difficult when you think about people that went through abuse that fragmented not only their soul, but their very personality. How can you bridge that with primordial water of creation and divinity and fresh water, and fresh water, unconditional? How does it even? It doesn't compile, and yet it is. This is why the traitor complex comes in. There is a saying in, I think it is already biblical Hebrew, that says "Bakesh shalom ve'radfuhu," which means the person asked for peace, was sought peace, and it was persecuted. We can think about JFK, you can think about Yitzhak Rabin, you can think about even if you think about King of Jordan that made lasting peace and paid with his life for it. And you can think about the Shinzo Abe. You can think about Pedro de Vries. Okay, so much so that the voices that even today we think about Putin congratulating Donald Trump, saying you're a brave person to talk about peace. He was not joking. You're thinking about for the other leaders. It's even so much that when I'm broadcasting this, there are things that I'm afraid to say, because I know that they were targeted. And when I was like, why did I want to do that? Oh, very obviously why. Because that's a person that could lead in time of peace, not just perpetual war. They could lead a war, and they could lead in times of peace. And they're targeted. And these people are sometimes seen as traitor. For Yitzhak Rabin, a lot of people called him Boged, traitor. And I'm not going to go into the security question. Did he risk the security, not risk the security? Was he trying to do King of Jordan? Was not. But you have to understand that in essence, it is so much so that when you try to have peace negotiation, although all the political teachings about war is, even the most Machiavellian, is that war is the continuation of negotiations in other means, meaning that in the essence of the creation of war, there is the essence of the creation of peace. We want to get back to discussion. We just want to do it fairly. We don't want to give up our entire being and call it peace, because that is not peace. And yet anybody that tries to apply this in praxis, when they call for mandatory army recruitment, everybody's like, meine Sonne gebe ich nicht. But when they, God forbid, say, we can't fund this perpetual war, neither can they. I fear, afraid to associate the quote with the person, because I want them to stay alive. And so the ingress of Saturn, Neptune into Aries, and when we talk about this second coming of Christ, we also talk about the traitor archetype. We also talk about the reality check to perpetual war. We also talk about it. A lot of people are going to see that person as traitor, and then a lot of people are going to see that person as sinner. That person is going to see themselves as sinner, and that person can. When we talk about the common person, we don't necessarily. It can definitely be leader, but the facet of the common person here is accentuated more so than anything else, and this is in line with the B6 style. Okay, with Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus creating this protective V6 style. A lot of compared it to a roof, which is fascinating. I don't know, I haven't received too much about that. You know that I have been addressing the issue of housing as... I actually have been addressing the issue of housing as prevention of people being traitors. Because when people are unhoused, this is where they are recruited. And they're not recruited with consent. And so I was trying to explain that today. If there's someone on Facebook, they're like, what's the connection? What the fuck? And I'm like, oh my God, by the time you'll get what the fuck is the connection, 9 million people can die, referring to the current state of Israel. It's way more. It's 9 billion, okay? But it's 20 billion, okay? But the thing is that it's the bridging of the world, and that traitor archetype. And people ask, why are we in such a situation? Where's JFK? Where's Shinzo Abe? Where's Peter R. de Vries? Not the journalist, the person that spoke against the WHO. It's not for nothing that we're gonna have, for those who we have left, we have Vladimir Putin saying to Donald Trump, it is a brave decision to negotiate peace, to meet to negotiate peace. Okay? There is a direct line from the Kremlin to the White House since 1962, 1963. JFK created that. There is a McDonald's in the Kremlin. And yet, those leaders that dare to talk sanely, are being persecuted by the very Vatican. It all comes down to that. You can say Rothschild, you can say Rockefeller, they pay protection to the Vatican. The lodges are ran by many cults, but the memento mori, the core of it, is Opus Dei. And it's from those places that we might see those people that would be considered traitors. And they raped, and they tortured, and they mutilated. And you know, if to assassinate them, it doesn't take more than to show something that maybe they have on film doing, and the person's poof. Okay. That's what they grew up into. In that atmosphere, they had to survive or perish. If they chose to perish, first of all, there was not an option. But let's say there would be. They would be left with the perpetuating of this evil, without exposure, without people that risk their lives speaking up. And you'd see these people with Epstein rings. Where they will have photos with pedo rings leaders. All of them, including all of them. So you understand that juxtaposition of the fresh water, and when we talk about sin, I think it's safe to say sin. Okay, it's not about somebody had some nice ooey-gooey sex in church. It is sin, in the most secular, atheistic way to see it. That's fucking evil. That is sin. And if that sin was done in the Vatican. And it's by those people that were perpetuating that sin that you'll see what the second coming of Christ. And they would be seen as a traitor. If you think about Christ was crucified by the Romans, that essentially what is the cross? Why was he put on a cross? It's a Christian symbol. It's the symbol of Christianity. And of course, then we talk about then when Christ died, so he was no longer the traitor. Now the traitors were the ones left. That was the Jews. Okay? The Jews can do debt issues, so that they can do money laundering, and they pay protection to the Vatican that has washes their hands clean of the sin, but the sin is perpetuated. And so we're not talking, when we talk about washing, and this is why this fresh droplet of water is like, yeah, you gotta wash your hands clean of the sin and perpetuate the sin, because that's what we're used to in this, or people call it Kali Yuga age, which is also considered Iron Age. Iron associated with Mars, that is associated with the penis, blood, war, but also transformation. And indeed, what this calls, the way that they practice sexuality is something that I like, it makes you think, what the fuck? But that's what they learn. And that cosmology, this is an attempt to purify something. Even the hatred of fear of women, the women seem as corrupted when they're not virginal, and they're corrupted by men. So it's not even a misogynic, okay? It's a misandric view of men by men, and that perpetuates this evil over nothing. So this is some of deep-rooted shame. A lot of things that we talk about washing away, it's a freaking fluid to wash that away. And that's all I've got to say about that. And we're already beginning to see the rising of the juxtapositions of those fresh droplets of water, that they look like washing. What do we say if we talk about the gender, that the image of somebody looks like washing, and the doubt and the fear and the humbleness of that hated those people that were born into perpetuating that, and the challenge in absorbing water. Talk about the soil. Aries is barren land. We're going to have a flood, and think about, I know that I create half moons in the barren land to reforest it. It's about the land reabsorbing soil and the reabsorbing water, and the barren land becomes a fertile soil. It doesn't happen in a day. And it is something that, if we didn't know that we're going to a Bronze Age or Golden Age, then it looks very weird, because there really is nothing that can explain that, or nothing that can justify that, nothing that can account for that. And it's the meeting of the waters with the primordial fire, the primordial water with the primordial fire, that ignites, okay, as Lada said, ignites steam. Okay, and she talked about the volcanic eruptions and so on. But those eruptions and purges bring and yield what will, along 300 years, according to for these ancient prophecies, usher us to golden ages. And everybody knows, it's sensible, that raping a baby and torturing a fetus is not kind of like, it's not about morality. It's just fucking dumb. Okay? Everybody knows. But if something is fucking dumb, it doesn't mean that it's not done. Doesn't mean people don't have fear. Doesn't mean that people don't have psychology. Doesn't mean that people don't have situations where the dumb fuckery is done, and they live in the dumb fuckery. And if they will die, the dumb fuckery will continue. If they will live, they don't even have for the waters to hold, to know to perpetuate this. And it is, we talk about the primordial fire as something out of nothing. It's not out of nothing, it's out of the primordial water, washing away, cleaning away the depths of the oceans, so this is what I got about more for intellectual level and spiritual level for 2025. And this is why it is the pivotal year, okay, with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, with the bisextile, and those still do not count for the Pluto-Sedna. Pluto-Sedna is ushering us to golden ages. If we think about the 24,000 year cycle, Sedna takes 1,200 years to surround the zodiac. It's kind of like it's a 2 Sedna cycles, and then we ushered into, okay, we talk about the 2 Iron Age, and then Golden Age or Bronze Age, and we're talking about time that it's very difficult to assess spiritually, because I'm just a person living on quite toxic soil, quite toxic air, okay, quite a lot of healthy air. I'm still alive, which is a miracle. Granted, okay, modern society, but don't expect me to assess 24,000 years and talk about the Pluto Sedna, when Sedna is in Gemini, with the bisextile, with the sextile to Aries, in Aries, which is another can of Ubermensch. People are like, oh, Aries, that's the LGBT. No. No. That's the Nibelungen. And yet, again, Saturn is not sextiling Aries, but it is going to be sextiling the Neptune-Saturn. You get a lot of Venus when it comes to that. So we think about Christ as, oh, that was this Middle Eastern looking person, then will later whiteified, kind of like a Michael Jackson. But it's highly Venusian. There's something highly Venusian. Also in the traitor archetype, I don't know. It's very fascinating. So thanks for watching.